Take a breath. Let the noise fade. In a quiet park just outside Seattle, a man named Eli made a choice, simple, small, but unforgettable. He didn't save the world that day. He didn't change the headlines. But what he did, and why he did it, might just change how you see yourself. This isn't a story about a hero. It's about something deeper, your nature, your truth, and the question, would you still be kind, even when it hurts? It was a Wednesday. One of those early fall afternoons where the air felt crisp, but the sun still held on to summer's warmth. The leaves had just begun their slow transformation, burnt orange, deep red, golden yellow, floating to the ground like nature's quiet applause. The park wasn't busy. A few joggers passed by, a mother pushed a stroller, and birds chirped lazily in the trees. Eli walked alone, earbuds tucked in but no music playing. He just wanted silence. After a morning full of Zoom calls, Slack pings, and digital noise, this walk was his reset button. His way of coming back to himself. He liked this part of the city, peaceful, a little wild, with a lake in the center that mirrored the sky. As he turned onto a dirt path that curved around the lake's edge, something caught his eye near the reeds, a small dog, trembling and caked in mud. It looked lost, confused, and clearly frightened. Eli paused. The dog was only half visible, struggling to climb out of a shallow dip by the water's edge. Its legs slipped in the mud every time it tried to push upward. Eli knelt, hands on his knees, observing for a moment. No collar. No leash. No owner in sight. He stepped carefully down the incline, his sneakers sliding slightly. The closer he got, the more frantic the dog became, yelping and backing away, sinking deeper into the muck. Eli crouched low and slowly reached out a hand, not too fast, not too sudden. But fear does strange things, even to the gentlest creatures. With a sharp bark, the dog lunged, not to escape, but to defend. Its teeth clamped down hard on Eli's hand, breaking skin. He winced, pulled back slightly, but didn't yell, didn't curse. Instead, he tried again, softer this time. His voice calm. Steady. Hey, it's okay. I'm not here to hurt you. Another moment passed. Then Eli reached out again. This time, the dog didn't bite. With one arm, he lifted the muddy, shivering creature from the ditch and set it gently on the grass. Blood dripped from his hand. The pain was real. But so was the relief in the dog's eyes. And somewhere, deep in that stillness between two breaths, a small truth took root, one that would be tested again before the day was done. Eli sat on a nearby bench, cradling his bitten hand in his lap. A thin line of blood traced his palm, already starting to clot. He pulled a napkin from his pocket, leftover from lunch, and wrapped it around the wound, pressing gently. The dog, now lying on the grass a few feet away, watched him cautiously, tail tucked but no longer growling. Its chest still rose and fell quickly, but the panic had faded into something closer to confusion. Or maybe trust. Just then, footsteps approached on the gravel path. "You okay there, man?" a voice called out. Eli looked up to see a man in his 50s, jogging in place, earbuds dangling around his neck. He wore an old mariner's cap and a neon orange running jacket. His eyes dropped to the blood on Eli's hand, then to the dog still covered in mud. "You helped that thing?" the man asked, incredulous. Eli gave a small nod. "It was stuck. I pulled it out." The jogger laughed, more surprised than amused. "And it bit you? Well, that's gratitude for you." Eli smiled faintly, not really answering. "Don't take this the wrong way," the man continued, "but I think you just taught it the wrong lesson. Now it thinks biting works. Next time it sees a hand, it'll snap again. That's how animals learn." Eli didn't reply. He looked out at the lake instead, watching a duck glide silently across the surface, creating ripples that stretched to the edge. The jogger seemed to expect some kind of reaction. When none came, he shook his head and scoffed. "Anyway, it's not your problem. Probably belongs to some careless owner who won't even notice it's gone. You did your good deed, let animal control handle the rest." And with that, he jogged off, his footsteps fading back into the rhythm of the park. Eli leaned back against the bench. His hand throbbed under the napkin, but he didn't feel regret. Pain, yes, but not regret. He looked at the dog again. It had stood up now, shaken itself off, and was limping away from the water's edge, unsteady but determined. Eli let it go. He didn't call it back. He wasn't trying to rescue it again. But only a few minutes passed before he noticed the dog had wandered too close to the lake's slope again. Its legs slipped. One paw sank into mud. Then another. And suddenly, as if fate were hitting repeat, the small body tumbled back into the shallow water with a splash. Eli blinked slowly. Of course, he thought. He stood, his wounded hand clenched slightly, and walked toward the lake again. And just like before, he reached out carefully. The dog panicked. And just like before, it bit him. But Eli didn't flinch this time. He pulled it up gently, stepped away from the edge, and placed it back on safe ground. A simple act. Repeated. Even though it hurt. Even though someone had just told him not to. The dog stood this time, dripping wet and still trembling, but it didn't run. It stayed close to the grass, just far enough to keep an eye on Eli, its fear now mingled with something quieter. Uncertainty, maybe. Or gratitude it didn't yet understand. Eli sat back on the bench, breathing through the sting pulsing from his hand. He didn't move much. He didn't need to. There was a kind of stillness in him now, quiet and solid, like a stone in a river that doesn't resist the current. But the rhythm was broken again by footsteps. It was the jogger. Back for his cool-down lap. When he saw Eli wiping his hand with a fresh napkin, now stained deeper with red, he slowed to a stop, staring in disbelief. "Wait," he said, walking closer. Did it bite you again? Eli glanced up, calm. Yeah. The jogger let out a sharp, annoyed laugh. You've got to be kidding me. You actually helped it again? Why? Man, that's just dumb. What, are you trying to be some kind of saint? No, Eli replied, his voice even. I'm just trying not to change who I am. The man paused. What's that supposed to mean? Eli turned, meeting his eyes. Look, I get it. It's a scared dog. It doesn't know what it's doing. It bites because it thinks it has to. But I'm not going to let its fear turn me into someone who walks away. That's not who I am. The jogger looked at him, less irritated now, more curious. But it hurt you. Twice. Doesn't that tell you anything? It tells me it's afraid, Eli said simply. But my nature isn't fear. It's kindness. And I don't think that should change just because something or someone lashes out. The jogger stood there, shifting on his feet, as if unsure whether to speak or keep moving. His brow furrowed, but not in anger this time. Something had landed differently. There was a pause. A still moment where neither man spoke. The dog shook itself one last time and limped into the trees, disappearing quietly. Finally, the jogger said, "Huh? I never thought of it that way." Eli smiled, soft but sincere. Most people don't. Until something bites them. There was no clever ending, no applause. Just a moment. Two strangers. One truth. And the older man, perhaps against his own expectations, nodded slowly. Well, take care of that hand, he muttered, then turned and jogged off again, slower this time. Eli stayed seated. He looked down at his hand, now bandaged and sore, and let out a small breath. He didn't save the world. He didn't even save the dog, not really. But in a world that often asks, what's the point? He chose instead to ask, what's my nature? And that question changed everything. Eli stayed on the bench long after the jogger had gone. The sun had dipped just enough to cast the lake in amber light, and the ripples now shimmered like threads of gold weaving across the water. It was quiet again. The kind of quiet that doesn't just fill the air, but fills you. He flexed his hand gently. It ached. The dog's teeth had left clear marks, but the bleeding had mostly stopped. He knew it would bruise. Maybe even scar. But that wasn't what stayed with him. What lingered was the feeling, the strange piece of choosing not to harden. He watched as the wind stirred the reeds by the shoreline, soft and steady. The same wind that ruffled the trees, moved the clouds, brushed past his skin. Nothing about it asked permission. Nothing forced it to be anything other than what it was. Kindness, he thought, is like that. Quiet, unseen most of the time. But when it touches something, it leaves movement behind. He didn't know if the dog would be okay. Maybe it had an owner waiting. Maybe it didn't. Maybe tomorrow someone else would find it, or maybe it would slip back into the shadows like it had never been there. He had no way of knowing. But in that moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was that he had shown up as himself. Not because it was easy. Not because it was fair. But because sometimes the most radical thing you can do in a reactive world is remain rooted in who you are. Eli stood, stretching his legs, and took one last look toward the tree line where the dog had disappeared. He didn't expect to see it again. He didn't need to. Then he walked slowly back toward the trail, hand in his pocket, leaving no trace but footprints in the soft earth. Later that night, as the city buzzed with headlines, emails, and scrolling feeds, someone somewhere would post a photo of a stray dog near Green Lake. A comment thread would grow, some angry, some kind, some asking who would help. But long before that, in a quiet part of the world, one man had already answered the question. Not with a post. Not with a speech. But with a choice. And maybe that's the real point of this story. Not that kindness always wins. Not that pain disappears. But that your nature, when lived fully and freely, doesn't need the world's permission to exist. So ask yourself, next time something bites, will you reflect the wound or the truth within you? So now, dear listener, I ask you, what would you have done? Would you have walked past the struggling dog, told yourself it wasn't your problem? Would you have helped once, then backed away after the first sting? Or would you, like Eli, choose to return not because it was safe, not because it was rewarded, but simply because it was right? This isn't just a story about a man, a dog, and a park in Seattle. It's a mirror. And somewhere in your life right now, there's a version of that moment waiting for you. It might not look the same. Maybe it's a coworker who snaps at you when they're drowning in stress. A stranger online who responds with hate instead of thanks. A loved one who pushes you away even when they need your presence most. It may not be teeth and mud, but it will still sting. And when it does, you'll have a choice. You can mirror the pain, or you can stay rooted in who you are. That's the question, isn't it? What is your nature? Not the one shaped by fear, by headlines, by hard days. But the one that lives beneath all that. The quiet one. The one you sometimes hear in stillness, or feel when you're walking alone under golden trees, just like Eli. The world won't always notice your kindness. It won't always reward it. Sometimes, it will bite your hand when all you offer is help. But that doesn't mean you stop showing up. That doesn't mean you stop being you. Because the real strength isn't in how loud you roar back. It's in how gently you hold your ground. So be the person who helps anyway. Who forgives anyway. Who returns anyway. Not because you expect gratitude, but because compassion is who you are and who you choose to stay. Even when it stings. Especially then. Take that with you today. Carry it into your next meeting, your next conflict, your next quiet moment with yourself. Let it remind you that there is power, not weakness, in soft choices, in kind hands, in hearts that refuse to harden. This has been a moment of reflection, a quiet story with a loud truth. Thank you for listening. Stay rooted, stay kind, and stay you.